morning, friends, or good afternoon now, I guess. It is good to be with you today. If you hear nothing else as you are scrolling through your social media feeds today, I hope you hear this. You are beautiful, you are beloved, and absolutely worthy of being loved. And there's not a darn thing you or anybody else can do to change it. And if you're going to stick around with me for a few minutes today, welcome. It is really good to be back with you after several weeks of Sabbath rest. If you're thinking I'm looking particularly tan, it's because I am. And if I look a little fuller in the face, well, that's because tacos. It was a great trip, and it's good to be home. I want to start today by just asking a simple question that's been rumbling around my head in this new year. And I'm going to guess that if you're anything like me, it probably doesn't have a simple answer. What are you afraid of? And I don't mean the boogeyman under the stairs, or the spiders lurking in the corners of the room, these rooms you rarely clean, although spiders are real scary. Let's just name that and honor that fact. I'm talking about the kind of fear that keeps you awake at night. The kind of fear that keeps you from trusting yourself or others. The fear that has a funny way of controlling you. Now, perhaps you know what some of those fears are. Perhaps you've not spent a lot of time thinking about it. But I want to encourage you to do that today. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, almost all of us have some kind of fear like this. Maybe it's the fear that we're not good enough. We're not good enough for our families, for our partner, for our colleagues. Perhaps it's the fear that we're not relevant enough, right? That we're not having enough of a lasting impact or making a meaningful difference in the world around us. Maybe, for my fellow control freaks out there, you have a fear of losing control. You're afraid that if you're not on top of everything, aware of everything, directing everything, that something is inexplicably going to go wrong, that things are going to fall apart, that we're going to lose the things or the people or the jobs or the homes or the places that we love the most. Any of that sound familiar to anybody? I'm going to guess that some of it is. And if it isn't familiar to us personally, then we know somebody for whom that's true. And the reason I ask these questions and want to invite us to reflect a little bit today on fear, which can feel kind of strange in the midst of this ongoing pandemic season, is because that at the start of this new year, fear is one of those things that can really derail us. Fear, whatever that fear might be for us, if we allow it to direct our lives, will destroy them. The kind of fear I'm talking about that causes us to cling to control, for instance, right? Where we feel like we've got to be on top of everything, where we feel like we've got to be the one directing everything. It can turn our relationships into transactions rather than invitations, right? In our effort to protect our place in a relationship, to protect our position in an organization, to protect our sense of security, we can become really quite unaware of the perhaps negative stuff that we're doing, right? That we can be manipulative, that we've become smothering or calculating in ways that really prevent us from fully receiving the gifts of other people's friendship and love and affection. We see opportunities for loss and lack around every corner rather than opportunities for growth and new life. And what happens in that moment is that rather than embracing the creative potential inherent in our relationship with others, the truth that when we choose to relate to somebody else, whether that's one person or an organization or a group of people, there is in that relationship, in that moment, an opportunity that only exists in that moment with those people. Right? We lose that when we allow fear to cause us to cling to control and take control of our relationships, right? We instead have a tendency to convert them into exchanges in which we're consuming what the other people or the other person or the other relational connections to an institution has to offer us. That tendency for fear to cause us to cling to control is so co-opting. And oftentimes we don't even realize it until the damage is done. It leads to resentment in our relationships, right? Fear has a tendency to make us so aware of the bad stuff that we fail to perceive the good stuff. When we're constantly concerned about protecting, we're conserving, or drawing lines in the sand, or circling the wagons, or whatever kind of image you want to use here that feels right to you, we forget to pay attention to the things, the people, the opportunities that are sources of strength in our lives, right? We become so fixated, if you want to use the image of light and dark, on the potential for darkness, that we fail to see the light. Yesterday, in a conversation I was having with some folks, I used the image of Leonard Cohen's, there are cracks in everything. That's how the light gets in. Fear has a tendency to make us forget to pay attention to the cracks, to forget to pay attention to the places where there's light and life and hope in our lives. And that's so important, especially in this season of ongoing pandemic. And when we're constantly pouring our energy into being afraid, or conserving, or protecting, or circling the wagons, or looking for potential problems, or paying attention to the pain points, we really do forget how to experience joy, right? When all of our energy is consumed by fear, there's no room for play. And we all know. And I think need to continually remind ourselves that even in the midst of moments that are stressful, straining, anxious, or we're feeling overworked and tired and uncertain, we need places to play, to expend and explore our creative sides, to rest and renew ourselves. And all of this, right, points to the singular truth that I think is the most important when we think about what fear does to our lives, to our relationships. Fear keeps us from growing into our best selves. The Bible is full of reminders, God saying over and over again, do not be afraid, do not be afraid, do not be afraid. And I don't think that that's God dismissing the experience that we have of fear. I don't think that that's God saying that it's inappropriate to be afraid. Fear is a natural human emotion. But I do think that it's God continually reminding us that God is bigger than our fear. That God is with us in those places where fear kind of begins to emerge into our lives, and gives us the space to both honor that fact and to step back enough so that fear doesn't control or dictate our decisions or our relationships. It is an opportunity to remember that we are more than the sum of our fear. And that when we are pouring all of our energy into that, protecting ourselves, we don't have the energy we need to grow into who God has called and created us to be. And that's the thing about fear, right? Like whether it's in our relationships, our creative endeavors, our vocational efforts, it often feels like it's a reaction that's securing our safety or protecting our well-being or ensuring our survival. And it's not like fear can't help us be situationally aware or help us stop and consider whether or not the decisions or choices we're making are the right ones. But when we allow fear to do more than that, to dictate our lives or our love or how we're making decisions, it eats us alive. It feels like it's saving us, protecting us, but it will destroy us. In her book, Big Magic, author Elizabeth Gilbert reflects on the role of fear, particularly for her in the creative process. And she writes a letter to her own fears that I just wanted to share with you now. I love some of the images she uses. She writes, "Dearest fear, creativity and I are about to go on a road trip together. I understand you'll be joining us because you always do. I acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job very seriously. Apparently, your job is to induce complete panic whenever I'm about to do anything interesting. And may I say, you are superb at your job. So by all means, keep doing your job if you feel you must. But I will also be doing my job on this road trip, which is to work hard and stay focused. And creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. There's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so make yourself at home, but understand this. Creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect that you are a part of this family, and so I will never exclude you from our activities, but still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat, and you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You're not allowed to touch the road maps. You're not allowed to suggest detours. You're not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend, you're absolutely forbidden to drive. I want to invite you as we step into this new year to take a look back on the one behind us and where you find yourself in this moment. And consider perhaps where fear has slipped into the driver's seat of your life, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's in your work, whether that's in the basic life decisions that you're making about money and all those other kinds of things. And then I want you to face your fear unafraid, and like Elizabeth Gilbert does, remind it of its place. Because we know that as people of faith, we have a God who, even as we journey through uncertain spaces, even as we travel on tumultuous waters, we do not do so alone. God goes with us. And God is bigger than any fear we face. So, the next time you feel your fear rising in you, the next time you find yourself being controlled or dictated by the fears that you face, remember you're not alone. Remember that fear doesn't have to be in control. And know that above all else, God goes with you in the midst of it to make a way where fear says there is none. I think that's what I've got for us today, friends. I hope that this reflection has been a little bit helpful for you. It was certainly helpful for me to think about as I step into the new year myself. Know that I am grateful that you've joined me. If you are a part of our Foundry family at Foundry UMC in Washington, D.C., I want to make sure that you know especially that we have 2 opportunities for learning coming up that are really important. We'll be offering 2 sessions of a Disciples Path. That's the course that we use for new members, but it's also an opportunity to refresh and update your own awareness about what it means to be a Wesleyan, a United Methodist, and to live that out in a meaningful way in the world. I'd encourage you to consider taking that. You can find registration pages on our website. It's a wonderful opportunity to grow in learning and in faith together. As always, friends, remember, be gentle with yourselves and be gentle with one another. And remember, you're always held in love. Until next time, take good care. Bye.